Thank you, representatives, for coming to the press conference today. Today we will, the delegations from the Islamic Republic of Iran will be discussing the grievances pertaining to human rights. Representatives, you have the floor.
Good morning, fellow delegates, ladies and gentlemen of the press, and people of the world. The pro-humanitarian Islamic regime of Iran would like to also thank this body for giving us this press opportunity. It is our feeling that during this conference, as well as over the past few years, the voice of Iran and her people has been intentionally silenced. We realize that the small countries of the body seek protection and good relations with the imperial colonial empire of the United States, so we don't hold them responsible, although we encourage all states not to sell their souls to the West. Therefore, we blame the imperialists of the United States and her ally, the Zionist regime, who occupies Palestine. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to take this time to publicly make known our grievances against this body's behavior and make known our greatest concerns. First and foremost, we are appalled still about the sanctions that have been placed on Iran and her women and children. They are starving us and are doing no good, and they are also based on no legitimate evidence, so we deem them illegal. Second, we are appalled at the body's decision to strike down a resolution by Libya that would have ended all food sanctions. This made it clear that this body would rather see people starve in order to play political games instead of being a pro-humanitarian body, a principle which we thought was a vital part of the United Nations. Third, we find it appalling that Israel has bombarded the innocent people from which they stole land from, speaking of course of the Palestinians. For almost a week now, and as we speak, Israel is attacking and killing at will innocent people, and most of the casualties have been women and children. Lastly, we would like to bring up the irony that our resolution yesterday to sanction the United States for illegally invading Iraq was struck down, yet this body agreed to sanction Iran based on no evidence. We think that there is clear evidence that the United States invaded a peaceful country and should be rightly tried so. We would now like to open up to everybody else for questions. Yes, ma'am.
Would you like to give a definition of humanitarian?
May I ask for clarification, humanitarian in a general sense, or?
In the way that you humanitarian Islamic.
I think a lot of times the United Nations would like to say that they're humanitarian. They like to, dish out food aid and whatnot. But we support unconditional humanitarianism. So even if you disagree with someone else's viewpoints, say if you disagree with our viewpoints of Iraq back in 2003, we still think that you should be there to provide for them, for their people, not sanction them, hurt their women and children. So I think there's a big difference between humanitarianism as the United States and the Zionists see it, and unconditional humanitarianism.
And if I can add to that as well, I don't believe that humanitarianism is a convenience that you use until you don't like how other countries are running themselves. It's a natural right that is extended to all peoples in the world.
What?
Absolutely.
Would you like to define unconditional?
I thought I somewhat did. Unconditional humanitarianism, like I said, humanitarianism, no matter what, if you disagree with the country politically, pretty much anybody who needs help gets it, no matter how you think of them politically.
So unconditional in regards to how the Islamic Republic of Iran is treated, not in the actions of the Islamic Republic.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, obviously, we're a very strong nation, and I wouldn't call us, developing. We like to call ourselves developed, and I think we are developed, but we're still not at the level of the West because they've held us down for so long. So we still need help. We need humanitarian efforts. Sanctions are starving our women and children. They're doing nothing.
And can I just to follow up with what he was saying, the idea behind humanitarianism is that even if you don't agree with the political actions of a country, you still want to provide for their people. You still recognize that their people have rights as defined by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And so when those rights are being violated, say, of the Palestinian people in the Golan Heights, that is not humanitarianism. That is not unconditional. It is, in the opinion of the Islamic Republic of Iran, that all people should be subject to these rights, that all people should have food, regardless of the political actions of their governments.
Did we answer your question at all? Kind of the idea of unconditional humanitarianism?
Just for clarification, you are stating that you are referring to unconditional humanitarianism outside
No, we are addressing it as well for our country as well. I would say that, at least I'll speak for us in the second committee and other committees that I've seen this week. We were the ones up at the mic preaching for human rights for all. We were the ones looking at the International Declaration of Human Rights, pulling out clauses that different imperialistic and Zionist states refuse to uphold because it's inconvenient for their colonization of the world. Yes.
You stated that you are, you consider yourself a developed country, however, you are not necessarily considered a developed country in accordance with the standards of the West. Are you using the West as a standard of development?
We aren't, but given their influence on this body, their illegitimate influence, we think, I think that they would define us as such, and therefore all her allies and all the countries that she influences, the United States, would probably see us as such. We see ourselves as a very strong nation, if not the strongest in Asia and the Middle East.
And if you look at our record, I think our human rights record speaks for itself. We're very good. You look at our education system, it is excellent. We have a democracy which people refuse to recognize with President Ahmadinejad. I apologize for President.
And who's been providing aid to the Palestinians for the past 20 years?
As far as developed,
Certainly not the West.
Absolutely not. And as far as developed, I think that's a relative term. I mean, any country is developing. And speaking of developing, we are disgusted by how the West has tried to stop our developing nuclear energy program.
And also to go off of that, if you look at historically, Iran's effort to become a developed nation, to become an economic leader in the world, that has been impeded at every step by the imperialist regime of the United States, who overthrows our government, who props up dictators who do not represent the will of the people, and are currently placing economic sanctions on us that cripple our economy, they block off our ports for no legitimate reason.
And that's not just an Iranian problem. I mean, over the period of history, they've done this to numerous countries. I mean, look at Latin America. I mean, how many regimes have they gone in with their CIA and just destroyed? I mean,
and we're just trying to protect our sovereignty.
Absolutely. We don't want to become another puppet state. We don't want to become the next Latin American colony.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, did you have any other questions on the issue of humanitarianism, sovereignty, anything? Anyone else? Questions? How would... Yes, sir.
Thank you for the enlightening press conference. Are any of you willing to comment on the situation in Syria?
In regards to what?
In regards to the humanitarian needs in Syria.
Peter? Good?
Well, one of the biggest issues when it comes to Syria is the, occupation of the Zionist regime on Syrian territory. The Zionist regime has been committing human rights violations in Syria for 4 decades. The United Nations has repeatedly denounced this, and yet the Zionist nation will not lead.
And I think it's pretty well known. It's not necessarily, it's obviously a civil conflict. And I think that the Zionist regime, including the United States, I think they've added fuel to the fire. I think a long time ago there would have been peace if it weren't for their impeding into those matters. I think they've, they haven't actually had ground forces in there, but I think behind the scenes and illegitimately they've gone in and really kind of stirred things up.
Using some soft power in there
Absolutely.
to decrease instability.
Rile some feathers.
Absolutely. And if the United States is so concerned with human rights, you'd think they would do something in Syria,
And
like publicly.
absolutely. So, while we've been preaching for human rights, the U.S., the Israelis have been nowhere to be found on this issue.
We would also like to respect the Syrian people's, sovereignty and their authority on the issue and their sovereignty to decide their own fate. So you recall the United States had their own civil war back in, the 1860s, and no one intervened then.
Absolutely.
So we're not for that. We think the Syrian people should decide their own fate rather than the West going in and setting up another puppet state in the Middle East. as we all know they wish to do.
As much as we weep for all those who have died in Syria, we do realize that the right to overthrow a government, if the people decide, is their right.
And the best side will win,
Yes.
God willing.
Yes, sir.
Would the delegation from the Islamic Republic of Iran care to comment on the withdrawal of U.S. forces from the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that that is front. They are still leaving military advisors there, which we all know are still troops on the ground. It is still an illegal occupation of the Afghani land. And if I can also add in the Iraqi occupation as well. They have an embassy the size of the Vatican out there, which is ironic seeing as the Pope in Vatican City had denounced their illegal invasion of the Iraqi people's land.
And let us be clear, the United States is an imperialist nation who will fail in Afghanistan. They are currently failing. The Taliban has taken over the northeast portion of Afghanistan. And why is that? And that's because the Afghani people recognize that U.S. imperialism is not beneficial for their needs. Right? The United States going over there and setting up a puppet government and telling them how they should live their life is not for them. You know, if opium production is the only way in which they can make a living for their family, who is the United States to travel thousands of miles and tell them what they can and can't do to put food on the table?
And this is another sign of the United States' disrespect for sovereignty. If the Afghani people want a new government, if they want a democratic government, they should take it for themselves. And if they really wanted it, they would take it for themselves. The United States remembers when they had their revolution back in the 1700s. No one did that for them. They took it themselves. So the United States likes to project their democracy. They forget that democracy or any form of government must come from within.
It's an internal struggle.
Like you saw what they did to our country with the imposition of the Shah, and then we, went ahead and had nothing to do with it. And yeah, grassroots, we overthrew it because that's what our people truly wanted. It was a notion of free will. It wasn't forced. So, and I think that the United States is trying to force the Afghanis to do something that obviously they're not comfortable with doing. I mean, it's been how many years has it been?
Going on 10. Going on 12.
Yep, going on 12 years. If the people haven't accepted it by now, when will they?
Thank you, Representative. We have time for just one more question.
Yes, I'd just like to follow up. Earlier you spoke in regards to the situation in Syria and about the will of the common people in Syria. After the re-election of Barack Obama in the United States, many people within Afghanistan have actually expressed their support for the United States staying on in an advisory role, not running things as they currently really are not. Our government is in control. And we would like, a lot of our people would like them to stay on in that kind of, as a partnership to help us. So what would you say about that?
Are you kind of getting towards what we say about the United States supporting your developing a future government? Is that kind of...
I'm saying that with the situation in Syria, you spoke about how the will of the people is so important. But then I feel like you're giving a different side of it with regards to the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. So I would just like a clarification.
Well, we disagree. We really don't think that the Afghani people want the United States to be there. And we don't think that they want a democracy.
Maybe the reverend class and the elites do, but the common folk, the people who have their opium fields destroyed, and let me be very clear that you should be wary of the imperialistic states helping you out. Just yesterday, one of the main grievances we saw in the Second Committee was the U.S. striking down Libya's pro-humanitarian resolution that would have lifted food sanctions for all. Because of them, 38 countries voted no. 38 countries voted for starving children and women because the United States took a stand against humanitarianism.
And also the thing with the United States is I think they like to put on a big facade while they're going to go into your country and say, hey, we're here to help. We're here to change things for you guys to make a great country. I mean, I think it's anything but. I think that's just what they tell the people of that country.
As we've
really
from our history.
Absolutely, and they just want to develop a regional power structure. Look what they did in Iraq. Look what they did to Latin America. We think it's a big facade, and we think it's really a bunch of fake talk.
It's egregious is what it is. It's heinous to true human rights.
Absolutely. So, we take one more question.
I'm noting the
I think we have-
time.
I think we have one more. No?
No, then we are good. We
Thank
appreciate everyone coming out. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Representatives. Press conference is now concluded.
Thank you.